الحمد لله رب العالمين نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمد عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على دين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا. Inshallah, we go straight into our topic, from information to transformation. Briefly, before we get to the talk, I just want to emphasize something that I've been constantly emphasizing whenever we have had the opportunity to give these talks. And I've always been saying that, the intention is not infotainment. We're not here to gather information for entertainment, right? And this is something that we miss out a lot whenever we're doing halakas or conferences or things like that. See, because if we're attending fiqh classes, then that's more to do with form, right? That's if you look at what we learn in fiqh is, the basics that we need to practice our deen. But then when we're doing these other things, like the lectures and the conferences and all of that, what we're trying to aim for is the essence. It's no longer a fiqh class, it's the essence, and that is what is lost. So we end up, just repeating the same things again and again and not going to the essence. And when we talk of essence, if you look at the dictionary definition of essence, right, it's the intrinsic nature or what is in the indispensable quality of something, right? That's what we are aiming for. And this is a kind of education. And what exactly are we aiming again for in education? Is a transformation, right? And transformation actually means going beyond the form. Right? That's transformation. We are aiming to go beyond the form to the essence, right? And inshallah, may Allah give us tawfiq in that, right? So it will be in three parts, right? So the first part is just quickly look at where we are, because if we need to transform, it's like if we need to heal an ailment or a disease, we have to identify it first, right? And then we come with the healing process. So it's just quickly to have a look at where we are, and then what religion is aiming for, and then that process of transformation. So it will be those three parts. So where we as an ummah, as human beings, collectively and individually, right? As an ummah, as Muslims, we expected, when we come into the world will have, or life will have tribulations. It has a way of being, right? So there will always be good and bad in life, always, right? These two themes will never come to an end, right? Meaning there will always be the conflict and then the resolutions to the conflict, right? And Allah has promised that, when we come here, there will be testing. There will be testing. So there will be tribulation. There will always be this theme of good and bad. But the aim is, religion also aims to do what? To help us deal with that. It gives us a guidance on how to deal with the shar and the khair. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we will test you with both the khair and the shar. So how are we supposed to respond when there is conflict, when there is shar in our lives? And how are we supposed to respond when there is good in our lives? Because each one of them has a way that the religion expects us to be. Like with the good, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَتُسْأَلُونَ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. We will ask you on Yawmul Qiyamah about the good that we gave you, right? So whatever good that we are given, we have to understand how we're supposed to respond to it. How do we use it? Right? These are resources, the bounties that Allah is giving us. And then we have the shar. So again, we have to look at that. Now, what we have to look at primarily is, when we have this shar in our lives, do we respond like the other? Right? Do we suffer the same anxieties, the same conflicts, inner conflicts and outer conflicts as the other? Because if we are doing that, then we have lost out the essence of religion. Right? So if I'm having family issues, and today we see a lot of young people getting quickly divorced. This is happening a lot in the Ummah, right? Why is that so? Why are we responding just like the other? Right? So, you know, and we can take simple example. If I'm in a queue, I'm a Muslim, and somebody cuts me, how do I respond? If I just get angry and start complaining, then I'm just responding like the other, isn't it? Right? So our religion wants us to respond differently. Now, if we look at what's happening in the Muslim Ummah, right, the world at large, we see that we've been having conflicts in the Muslim Ummah for what, 40, 50 years now, non-stop, where we are being bombed and bombed and bombed again, and the excuses that, you know, we are a threat, right? And this has been going on for 50 years. And what is our response to that? How are we behaving when all this is happening? And if we come close to home, again, we see that here in Europe now, right? Islamophobia, right? We are having it everywhere now. Right? We have become a threat. But not only that, we are accused of a lot of terrorist activities, right? What is that? Is it as a reaction to something that is going on in our lives? Are we supposed to react that way? Right? So where are we? We are going to have tribulations coming. You know, the youth are suffering a lot. We are having a lot of Muslim youth in prison, in jails, right? We are told that by the Muslim brothers and sisters, especially the brothers who work to try and help them, right? So it is important for us, where are we whenever we are having these tribulations, right? And why are we responding that way? And that's that's what we're aiming for in this talk, to understand why this is our response to this crisis, these tribulations. Is there something we are failing to understand? Right? And that's what I believe is the key issue here. We are failing to recognize something that the religion is trying to teach us, right? And each one of us can look individually to your own lives. You know, where are you whenever you're having tribulations, right? If you're having family issues, how do we respond? And Allah has given us ways of responding. So we are told, وَلَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَاتِ وَلَا السَّيِّئَةِ ادْفَعْ بِالَّتِي أَحْسَنُ. Right? Good and bad are not the same. Remove that which is bad with that which is good. And this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving us this instruction, right? And then we have verses, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. Right? وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. And they hold back their anger and they forgive, right? They pardon. Who? Nas. Human beings. Not just Muslims. Now, are we doing that? Right? And you know, I start myself by saying, you know, I seek forgiveness for all those who I have harmed individually with my speech, my actions, and my thoughts, and my failures. May Allah forgive me and forgive all of us. But this is what Allah expects out of us, right? That we should be able to pardon human beings. Fa'afu wa'afu, right? Fa'afu wasfahu, right? So we have to pardon, we have to forgive. Now, let's say, you know, if I see someone drunk on the streets and they're behaving in a foul way, as a Muslim, how do I respond to that? Look at this kafir, look at what they're doing to themselves. Or do I say, may Allah help him find guidance, May Allah remove him from his tribulations. Right? When we see young people going astray, we see, the desires being clearly being manifesting in open. Do we think, may Allah help them come out of that? May Allah protect them from the plannings and plottings of shaitan? Is that how we think? Oh, astaghfirullah, look at them. This is what happens when we're in kufr, right? Is this how we are supposed to respond to things, right? Like sometimes when I'm at work, the non-Muslim, there are things, some adab that they don't know. So a lot of time you'll hear people cursing hell. Right? They will do that. They will curse hell. It's a very common thing. F hell. Right? And the first thing I always do is I say astaghfirullah, because you're not supposed to curse hell. So I say to myself astaghfirullah, and then I'll tell them, you keep cursing hell and it's waiting for you, so you need to be careful. Don't think it doesn't exist, right? So we have to ask ourselves individually, how have we been responding in life to all this? Before the other talk, I spoke about the inner conflicts. How do we respond? So this is where we are. And we can see it. We can see sometimes when, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is insulted, what happens? We go out there and, we are now very violent, right? And this is what we said last time, that by and large, when we have these conflicts and we don't resolve them, we are going to respond in what? 3 ways, right? Harmful, aggressive, violent. That's what happens. That's where we are. Let's look around, right? And then when we have good, do we remember Allah more? Or do we think, wow, let me entertain myself more, things are good. Right? So this is where we are. Now, what is it that the religion is aiming for? Okay? What is it that is aiming for? Is it just the 5 pillars? Is that what Allah expects out of us? To pray, fast, zakah, go for hajj? And we know it's not. Right? It's not. There's more expected out of us. Allah says, "Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrajat linnas." You're the best of people sent to who? Nas. To mankind. There's more expected of us, right? And then we find a lot of verses where Allah is asking us to strive, right? Am hasibtum an tadkhulul jannah walamma ya'tikum mathalul ladhina khalaw min qablikum masathumul ba'sa wadh-dharra wa zulzilu. Right? Do you think you'll enter paradise before you have these tribulations that others had before you? Right? The poverty, the ailments, the zilzala, right? Do you think you won't have this? This is expected, right? So Allah is saying, this is expected. In another verse, He says, "Am hasibtum an tadkhulul jannah walam am hasibtum an tadkhulul jannah." Well, what's the verse? I'm forgetting the verse. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ حَتَّى نَعْلَمُ الْمُجَاهِدِينَ مِنْكُمْ وَالصَّابِرِينَ وَنَبْلُوَ أَخْبَارَكُمْ. And we will test you until we know those of you who are striving. مُجَاهِدِينَ مِنْكُمْ وَالصَّابِرِينَ, and the patient ones. وَنَبْلُوَ أَخْبَارَكُمْ, and we will test your facts, your realities. Right? So this is expected of us in religion, right? لَتُبْلَوُنَّ فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ وَأَمْوَالِكُمْ. You will be tested in your souls, in your nafs, and in your wealth. This is expected, right? So there's a lot of things expected from us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there are 5 things here that in particular I want to mention, which will bring about this theme of transformation. Okay, there are 5 key elements that religion is aiming for. Okay. The first one, Inna Allah jamilun yuhibbu jamal. Right? Allah is beautiful. He loves that which is beautiful. And what that means is this religion has to be beautiful. Right? It has to be beautiful. So in turn, it means that if we truly practice this religion as we should, we are supposed to be beautiful people. We are supposed to be what people will look at and say, we want our children to be like that. We want our family to be like that. Right? This is expected of us. This is the message of religion. We have to transform and become beautiful people. Now we have to ask ourselves, is that what we are out there? Are we the beautiful people? Because the beautiful things sell themselves. You put something beautiful, you'll see customers will rush for it. So we can easily sell this religion to people. And that is expected of us. Allah expects us to call people to this religion. Right? So that's number one. Inna Allah jamilun yuhibbu jamal. Are we beautiful? We are supposed to be beautiful people. Okay, we have to ask ourselves that. Number two, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in a hadith, "Innama bu'ithtu liutammima makarim al-akhlaq." Right? I was sent to perfect the character, makarim al-akhlaq. Right? This beautiful, noble character. Now, what that means is, by default, we all have imperfections of character. By default, each one of us has imperfections, and we have to look at those imperfections and work towards what? Perfection. Right? Perfection. We are supposed to be noble people. وَلَقَدْ كَرَمْنَا بَنِي Adam. Allah says we've made noble. We have ennobled the son of Adam. We are supposed to be noble. Human beings are supposed to be noble creatures. This is one of the arguments of shaitan, right? أَرَأَيْتَكَ هَذَا الَّذِي كَرَمْتَ عَلَيَّ. That's what he wasn't happy about. That this one, karamta, you've made him noble over me, alayya. Right? He didn't like that because he was told, bow down to this one. He's karam. He's karamta alayya. So we are supposed to be noble people, human beings, but more so us Muslims. We are supposed to be at the forefront of that, nobility. And we even do that, right? We have teachings that we make a dua, right? Allahumma ahsanta khalqi fa ahsin khuluqi. Make my character beautiful. You've made my form beautiful, now make my character beautiful. Right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in hadith, ittaqillah haythu ma kunta wa atbi'u sayyi'ati al-hasana tamhuha. Right? Follow the bad actions with a good action. It will remove it. And then what? وَخَالِقِ النَّاسَ بِخُلُوقٍ حَسَنَةٍ. Right? And interact with people in beautiful character. So we are supposed to be that. This is why Allah has chosen us. Right? وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ. You, ummatan wasatan. You are the people of the middle path. Why? لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ, so that you become witnesses to mankind. Right? So it's not just about praying and fasting, isn't it? We are supposed to be witnesses to mankind. Witnessing who? Bringing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to people. Because Allah wants, He wants His creation to know Him. Right? أُدْعُ إِلَى سَبِيلِ رَبِّكَ بِالْحِكْمَةِ وَالْمَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ. Call people to the path of your Lord, right? Call people. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ. Who is better in speech than the one who calls to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Meaning that Allah has not said, just call the Muslims to me. Go and call people to my mercy. Nabbi ibadi inni ana ghafurun rahim. Tell them this is who I am. Bring them to me. Right? So, this is expected of us. To be noble people, to be, that which people can look at and say, oh, so this is the manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Okay, so that's the second one. So are we transforming into that? Right? And again, I keep saying everyone has to look to themselves. When we are out there, is that what I am? Are we noble people? Okay. Then the third one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, He has sent the messenger, right? To do what? يُعَلِّمُكُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ لقد من الله على المؤمنين إذ بعث فيهم رسولا من أنفسهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة, and is teaching them the book and wisdom. Right, let's look at that wisdom. Meaning again that we are supposed to be what? Wise people. We are supposed to be wise people. Right? Are we wise people? What does it mean to be wise people? How do we identify that? And time and again I've spoken about wisdom. Right? I think even last Friday we were here again and we were talking about wisdom. And I remember saying, to be wise people, we should be able first and foremost to do what? To define wisdom. Right? We said we need to understand what is wisdom. How can we define wisdom? How do we know it? Right? And just, I will repeat what I said. For me, the definition of wisdom is that which will always bring good. That which will always bring good out of everything. Right? Wisdom will bring the best out of every situation, out of your speech, your actions, right? Your thoughts, your time, your relationship, your money, right? Your knowledge, everything. When you are wise, you don't harm. Wisdom will never harm, never. Right? Have you ever heard of a wise person who's harming? No, we know wise people just beneficial, right? That's what they are. They just bring benefit. This is what it means to have wisdom. That is, in everything we are doing, there's benefit, not harm. Wallahi. That's what, and if you look at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's what he's doing. He's teaching us to do what? To get the best out of every situation. Every situation. Right? You're interacting with children, this is how you should do it. You're interacting with your husband's wife, this is how you should do it. Right? You're interacting with your neighbor, this is how you should do it. Right? You're interacting with the other, from the other tradition or the unbeliever, this is how you do it. Right? You go to sleep, this is what you do. You eat food, this is how you do it. You get angry, this is how you behave. Right? So what Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is trying to teach us to get what? The ajra in every situation. That's what it means to be wise. My free time, my time, how do I spend it? My money, how do I spend it? So that I get ajra, not loss in every situation. This is what it means to be wise. Now, again, we look at the ummah. Are we wise people? Are we people that someone will look at you and say, I need to go and talk to them about my problems, right? And we are seeing out there how we deal with each other. There's a lot of, wrong things going on. Like for just, simple examples, you go on YouTube, Sheikh so-and-so maybe said something that, some people felt maybe they'd even put him into kufr, some of them, or they will say, and then you look at how they're responding. So you have shuyukhs and shuyukhs attacking each other. Then you have the lay people also getting in, and honorable people will now be slandered. They will be brought down by lay people. Is this wisdom? We're not behaving in wise ways. And religion expects us to be wise. This is what Allah expects out of us. That's the message of deen. That is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. Okay, so that's the fourth one. So we have looked at, we're supposed to be beautiful people, noble people. That's the third one, wise people. Now the next one, which goes back to the beginning of this ayah, كما أرسلنا فيكم رسولا منكم يتلو عليكم آياتنا ويزكيكم is purifying you, right? Just like Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam said, ربنا وابعث فيهم رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياتك ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة ويزكيهم. He's purifying them, right? And Allah is saying the Prophet is purifying you. Again, what does that mean? We are supposed to be pure people. We are supposed to be pure people, meaning purity of mind, purity of thoughts, and purity of action. That's what we are supposed to be. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm the role model of this. What I'm saying is each one of us has to look to your own self and say, this is the lessons. Is this what I am? Do I think pure thoughts? Right. And this is, there's a hadith, al-Islamu nadhifu fatanadhafu. Islam is cleanliness, so be clean, right? إِنَّهُ لَا يَدْخُلُ الْجَنَّةَ إِلَّا بِنَظِيفٍ, right? It's not going to enter paradise except what? Cleanliness. So we are supposed to be these people who are always aspiring towards purity. And we can see, good models of or examples of purity is in, mashallah, children, right? Look at that, purity. And Rasulullah said the believer is like the infant, right? Purity. That's what we're supposed to be looking at, right? So that means we are constantly doing what? Purifying the heart. Constantly, because يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالُ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. The one who comes with a sound heart, right? And we know none will enter paradise until purification is completed. Right? وَنَفْسِ وَمَا سَوَاهَا فَأَلْهَمَ فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا قَدْ أَفْلَاهَا مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. Right? Successful is one who purifies it. Right? So we are supposed to be purifying the environment. This is a command. وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. We stop the evil, right? And then we command the good, right? So we are supposed to be purifying, not just ourselves, but the environment. But we're not even aware of that. We are not aware that we can purify the environment, right? We are connected to the universe. It's connected to us. So the more we do good, the more we are purifying the environment, our own selves and out there. This is the job of the Muslim Ummah. So when we see people doing wrong and we cannot stop them, we can still do what? Go back and make tawbah, right? Pray, fast, do things. To do what? To remove that evil, to counter that evil. Why? Because if we don't do that, an imbalance is going to occur. Every impurity is an imbalance in ourselves and in our world. That's why we have to stop it. Right? So that's the fourth one, purity. We have to aim for that all the time. Cleanliness, purity of thoughts, of mind, of heart, right? Now, the fifth one, right? And I know I should have put the fifth one first, but I just wanted to have a guess, like, can anybody think of the fifth one? And that should be the easiest because we are constantly doing it. That should be the easiest. No? This is the transformation, the things that we're supposed to be representing out there. What will be the fifth one? Which should be the first one? Peace. Peace. And I say it's easy because all the time, Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, peace be upon you. Right? That's our job. To bring peace into the world. This is, one of the greatest message of this religion, to remove the conflicts and bring the peace. So we are supposed to be what? Peaceful people. That's what we are supposed to be. Because think about this. How are we going to be the Khalifa? How are we going to direct people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if this is not what we are? Beautiful, noble, pure, right? Peaceful. If we are not any of these things, then how do we call people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And we are supposed to do that. Each one of us, wherever we are, I'm sure we are conscious of the fact that we are representing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, and this religion. رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبسيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. Right? We are aware of that we are supposed to be doing that all the time. Right? This is what we've been chosen for. Allah has made it easy for us to believe. But what we are doing now, we are limiting our role. And then the whole world is going into chaos. And we are also in the same state, right? So we said right at the beginning, how are we responding to the world out there, the conflicts of the world, and the good in the world? Is it as per what our religion expects us, right? Are we the peaceful people? And we are not at the moment. We can see that in terms of, that we've had over 50 years now, probably, that it's continuous going on. The Muslim Ummah or the Muslims are the enemy. We are the constant threat. Although, a lot of it can be just manufactured in one way or the other, but it is happening, right? It is happening. Not only that, like in the Western world now, you have so many laws that have taken away the rights of people, and this has, they've used us as an excuse to take away the rights of people and to impose, on people that which is not, it's constrictions upon them, right? It's constrictions upon them. So that's where we are, and this is what religion is expecting of us, right? But then, how are we going to be beautiful people, noble people, peaceful people, right? People of purity? This is now the process. This is the process. Okay, we need to understand that we are here to transform. Okay, and this is because the nature of the soul, our fitra, our soul, that's its nature. It has degrees of existence, and it has to move from the conflict level of existence to the other levels. So there is a process that we have to go through, and we have failed to understand that. How do we resolve these inner conflicts? How do we resolve the outer conflicts? If we keep looking outside of ourselves, we will not be able to do what we're supposed to do. Okay? That's where we are failing, because we have forgotten that the key thing in all of this is who? The human being. All of this is the human being. Right? Religion came, human being, for you, for human beings. This earth we are on, for human beings. So the human being has to understand its nature and how it's affecting the world he's in or she's in. This is important. So last time, I think we spoke about this offline, but I will just repeat it. I said everything that has life will have three things that accompany it. Okay, this is to understand the process now. I said everything that is given life will have three things, like its way of being, that will always be with it. Okay? And we can look at it and see whether this is true. Allahu alam, inshallah khair. The first one is we know that things that have life will grow. We said that they will grow, right? So we look at seeds. You put seeds, they grow, right? Whether it's the seedling, the tree, the seedling grows, becomes a big tree, right? We look at animals, they come into the world. Little calf becomes a big lion, right? The calf becomes the goat, the cow, right? They're gonna grow, right? Human beings also, right? But the question we said is the growth intended to be only physical growth? Does Allah expect everything just to grow physically? And we can look out there into nature and we'll see that's not true. In the growth, there's something else happening. Like when you put a seed, a maize seed, it doesn't come out a big maize seed, isn't it? Right? It goes into something else. Right? The same way you put a fruit seed, it comes out into something else, right? And the same way when you look at the cub of a lion, later on when it grows, it's not the same little thing just becoming big. There are certain changes that have taken place, right? So there is the second thing, that which you're supposed to grow into, your destination. That's your destination. What do you grow into? So what do we human beings grow into? Right? Do we just grow big? And we know it's not true. Sometimes we tell each other, you tell an adult, can you grow up? Right? Why are you telling an adult if they need to grow up? Because something hasn't grown in them. This is the transformation process, right? So what is this thing that needs to grow? And we know also that Allah did not intend our growth to be only a physical growth, because we see other human beings who come into the world with disabilities. So is their beauty only in form? Is their nobility only in form? No. Where will the beauty and nobility come from? It's not in the form, isn't it? Something else has to transform for that to manifest, right? So this is when we talked about the destination. And the proofs for this in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in Surah Nuh, and the verse is, وَاللَّهُ أَنْبَتَكُم مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ نَبَاتًا, right? And Allah made you to grow from the earth, like the growth, like what you see other things growing. So that's like a symbolism. Look at other things growing. What do you see? What do you see when they're growing, right? So you look at that little tree, and then now look at it when it is big. What has happened? What has happened? There is a big transformation, because now it's going to bring what? More benefit. More will come out of it. When you have the little calf, right, before coming into a cow, into a goat, it cannot give you enough milk or meat, isn't it? But when it gets there, now there's greater benefit coming out of it. So Allah is saying, look at that and then understand your own growth, right? And then in another verse, and the only two verses where I've seen human beings using this word nabata for human beings, and we said is in Surah Al-Imran, where Maryam alayhi salam, and Allah says وَأَنْبَتَهَا نَبَاتًا حَسَنًا. And then Allah made Maryam alayhi salam to grow into what? Nabatan hasana, a beautiful growth. Is it beauty in form? Is that all what Maryam alayhi salam was? No. There is a certain beauty that we are aiming for. And the word used here is Hasan, right? So this is Hasana. So we said this is what we are aiming for. Our destination is to become this Hasan, this beautiful thing, Nabatan Hasana, right? And how will we know the Nabatan Hasana? We said Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the model for that. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Right? Uswatun hasana. In the messenger of Allah is this the beautiful thing, the role model that you're supposed to be. Now, do you see that? That's where we're aiming for in our transformation. to become this beautiful thing, beautiful human being, and Rasulullah is the model of that. So we have a destination. We are expected to be that. Allah did not create us just to become big human beings. And we know physically we stop growing by the age of 21. Right? After that, it's either being fat or thin or losing weight or falling sick, or, that's what happens. But there's still another growth taking place. Okay, so I'm going over this a little bit quickly because I think I spoke about it briefly last time, right? So the three things that everything that has life will accompany, it has to grow, right? And the growth is not just physical growth. And we can see that in animals, we can see that in plantations. And then the destination, that's what it is growing into. So we are supposed to grow into this beautiful thing, nabatan hasana, right? And then I said the other thing is what? Between the growth and the destination, there will always be what? Obstacle. There will always be something preventing us from becoming that which we're supposed to be. And this is the obstacle, right? And I'm rushing through all this. This can be a very long talk, which we don't have time for, right? But we're getting the key points here. Wallahi, we did not come here to remain the same people. I'm just going to read from 𝗕𝗲𝗰𝗁 just to show you that, I'm not making up these things, right? He says here, the purpose of life. The real challenge is to understand that the human microcosm, which contains everything that can be known, experienced, or sensed, is a reflection and mirror of the macrocosm, right? So, okay, and then he says here, biological evolution and natural selection are energized by conditioned consciousness. The drive for higher consciousness and spiritual awakening follows. Every human being grows and evolves towards its higher potential. That's Shaykh Fadlallah saying. Right? Every human being grows to evolve towards what? Your higher potential. You have a potential within you that is waiting to manifest. So we have to grow. And we are not looking at the soul as growing like a tree. Okay, where is the growth taking place? That's what we're going to cover very quickly now. Right? So this is our destination. We are going to have obstacles, we have to grow. Now we look at the process. Where are we growing if it's not in our physical body? Where is this growth taking place? Can we be able to experience it and know that it is taking place? Na'am. But the key thing is to understand where it is taking place. Okay? And this is where the transformation will take place. That's where the transformation will take place. That's where we need to go to change. Right? And Shaitan, when we said the obstacle, we didn't mention who the obstacle is, isn't it? Right? So there are two obstacles that will prevent you from arriving at your destination. That nabatan hasana, that beautiful thing that Allah wants us to be. And the first obstacle is, of course, Shaitan. Right? Shaitan knows the potential of human beings. He knows that. And he's going to try and do everything to prevent that. But how is he going to do it? Because he's the penultimate obstacle. He's not the ultimate obstacle. The ultimate obstacle is you yourself. Right? Your failure to know your nature. That's the whole problem. And who's telling you? Shaitan. وقال الشيطان لما قضي الأمر إن الله وعدكم وعد الحق ووعدتكم فأخلفتكم وما كان لي عليكم من سلطان إلا أن دعوتكم فاستجبتم لي فلا تلوموني ولوموا أنفسكم. Don't blame me, blame your souls. What does he mean by that? He knows the soul. He knows how to play it. He knows the potential and he knows where to get us. And there are verses in the Quran that prove that, right? when he says لَأَتِيَانَكُمْ مِنْ بَيْنِ أَيْدِيكُمْ وَمِنْ خَلْفِكُمْ وَعَنْ أَيْمَانِكُمْ مِنْ خَلْفِكُمْ وَعَنْ أَمَانِكُمْ وَعَنْ شَمَائِلِكُمْ. Right? We will come to you towards, the front, the back, right? And the left and the right. We will come to you, right? Where is he coming to us? Is it here now? No. It's in the world of the soul, the malakut. Meaning that's where we're waiting. That's where we want to attack you. إِنَّهُ يَرَاكُمْ هُوَ وَقَبِيلُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا تَرَوْنَهُم. He sees you with his tribe where you don't see them. Again, where? Not here. It's over there. Right? So he knows that. And he will be the obstacle, but he's going to use you to stop you from becoming what you're supposed to become. Okay? So now let's look at how the transformation takes place. Okay? The soul comes into the world. We come into the world, and then we have our soul. And last time we spoke a bit about the journey of life, right? How we develop the inner conflict, right? Every one of us, when we come into the world, we will start developing this inner conflict, right? Because first and foremost, we have the two, fujuraha wa taqwaha. We have two forces in us constantly fighting. Which one will prevail? So the conflict starts. And then we have the desires of the souls, right? Which we have them. وَلَا تَنْسَوْا نَصِيبَكَ فِي الدُّنْيَا. Don't forget your portion of the world. We will have the desire for good things. It is in all of us. Now, these desires, if we fulfill them outside of the prescription, they will create the inner conflict. This is what we're talking about, the journey of life, right? And then we have things like trauma, like abuse. When we come into the world and we go through these things, again, we develop the inner conflict. Whenever we're going through these things, there will be an inner conflict. So we need to understand that the soul has a process that it goes through. This is where life is taking place. So you have, picture the soul, nafs, and then you have the qalb, heart, and then you have the ruh, spirit, right? Now we know that the soul eventually what is aimed for? Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'inna. The soul is aiming for what? Arriving at mutma'inna. And what about the heart? What is it aiming for? يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. A sound heart. Right? So this is what is expected of the nafs and the qalb. Okay? So when we come into the world, things will start happening to the soul and to the heart. It will start happening. Okay? Rasulullah says, so when we look at children, before we come to the age of mukallaf, there is no sin upon them, isn't it? There is no sin, so the purity is still there. Now what happens when you get to the age of mukallaf? Right? Now you are responsible. You're supposed to pray. What happens if you don't pray? Right? It is a sin, isn't it? It's a major sin. Right? Now what are we told about sins? When we commit a sin, what happens? There is a 𝗙𝗲𝗴𝘂𝗃, a black spot that enters the heart, isn't it? So now there's impurity coming in. There's impurity coming into the soul. Okay? Now think about, let's say you don't have guidance. The unbeliever. Right? Now you're mukallaf. You're supposed to be doing these things. You're supposed to be doing the good. You're supposed to fulfill the obligations. They are not doing any of those things. What do you think is going to happen to the soul now? It's going to start becoming corrupt. It will be corrupted. That's what happened to the nafs. And when it is corrupted, what will it do? It will affect the heart. Right? It will start affecting the heart. And then the heart will start going into states. And Allah says in one verse, بَلْ رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. So it's moving from 𝗙𝗲𝗴𝘂𝗃, just having a black spot, to now rana, becoming rusty. The heart starts becoming rusty, right? Because of the sins, the wrong actions that we are committing. And then if we continue that, 𝗕𝗲𝗴𝘂𝗂 𝗂𝗲𝗴𝘂𝗃. Now it becomes engraved. It becomes engraved, right? And when it becomes engraved, that's more difficult to remove. And then eventually, if they persist in their wrong actions, right, what will finally happen? ختم الله على قلوبهم. Now the heart will be sealed. Now once the heart is sealed, what's left with the soul? Remember the soul at its default state. What's the default state of the soul? When it doesn't have the guidance, what will it do? إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَعَامَرَةَ بِسُوءٍ. The soul will command towards evil. Right? And we can see with children, it's not really evil, but what are we doing? We are telling them, don't do that, that's bad. Where is that coming from? The inclination of the soul, isn't it? The attacks of shaitan have already begun. We see that in children. We have to teach them that. That's bad. Why isn't it just naturally they're supposed to know it's bad? They're not at that moment. So you tell, that's bad. Don't do that. That's bad. That's bad. Right? So this is what the soul will do. If it doesn't have guidance, it will go towards, and last time I said there are three things that normally the soul, when it doesn't have guidance, it will incline towards. Number one, that which is harmful. Right? That which is harmful, that which is corrupting, that which is, whether it's the sins and all this other wrong action. That's what it will do. Number two, that which is easy. We said that before, right? The soul doesn't like difficult things. It wants easy things, right? So, even when it's haram, when it's not the best thing, like, for example, we see with kids, even with us adults anyway, but a lot with kids when they're going to school and all of that, oh, school is difficult, or it's boring, or la la la. I'd rather not do the mathematics today, maybe next week, or maybe I will copy from someone, right? We see that, right? We are always looking for excuses to run away from that which is difficult, right? This is the nature of the soul. That's how you have to strive against it. It will keep doing that. Wallahi, right? And I once gave an example, which I will come to, of understanding how the soul has become corrupted anyway. And then the third one is what? Trivial, non-beneficial. That's what the soul will do. And come on, let's just go and watch the movie, come on, let's just watch TV. Right? And you could be having, all the dishes waiting for you to wash, right? Maybe the clothes need to be hung, right? Maybe the house needs to be cleaned. But come on, let's just go and watch football or play football or da-da-da-da. This is what the soul will do. That's why we are told, Rasulullah when he said in a hadith that we have come from this the lesser battle to the bigger battle. And they asked him, is there a bigger battle than going to the battlefield? He said, yes, the jihad al-nafs. The jihad al-nafs. So by default, the soul will do that. لَعَامَرَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. It will incline towards the evil. And we can see that with the unbeliever now. Right? So it's a progression. Right? They're not going to be immediately doing the evil. But it will progress slowly by slowly. Why? Because there's no check. Okay? Or they're not responding to the check, which is the heart. So this is the wrong actions. When you're doing the wrong actions, it will go down to that stage. Eventually it comes to ختم الله على قلوبهم. Now I can say this, that majority of human beings, Allah hasn't sealed their heart. Please understand that. Okay, this is important for us Muslims to understand that majority of people out there who don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has not sealed their hearts. That's why He's saying, call people to my path. I understand. None of us has a list of those who we cannot call to Allah's path. So don't go thinking it's over with them. No, Allah says, call them to my path. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. He knows you don't. Right? And the proof for that, right? because the heart is the arbitrator. Okay, the heart is the arbitrator. Remember the hadith of the man who came to Rasulullah and this, before he asked him, he said, did you come to ask me about good and bad? And he said, Naam. He said, Istafti qalbik, ask your heart. Ask your heart knows. He said, the good is that which when you do, you feel good, and bad is that which when you do, your heart is agitating, it's wavering, right? He said, your heart knows. So the heart is like the arbitrator. And we can see that with the non-Muslims or the unbelievers, right? Their hearts are still trying to help them out. Because why? Your neighbor could be an atheist, but what is he teaching his child? Be good. Do good. Isn't it? Yet he doesn't believe in God. Why is that so? You can Google up. You'll see the atheists. There's a book called Spirituality for Atheists. Right? Meaning they believe that in goodness. SubhanAllah, this is the guidance of the heart. It's always there, arbitrating, unless Allah seals the heart. And a clear example of people who Allah seals their heart is like the psychopaths. Right? Most of these leaders we have are just psychopaths. Right? People who will send others to bomb indiscriminately. They're just psychopaths. Right? Wallahi, that's what they are. That's why they, when the heart is sealed, what happens? There's no emotions. The emotions are gone. So you just kill because you don't feel anything. And that's Iblis. His heart is sealed from guidance. And that's why he takes I don't want to say pleasure, but he has no problem with killing infants. He has no problem with that. And you will see that with these psychopaths, these people whose hearts are sealed. They don't have a problem. Madeleine Albright, that was her name, isn't it? The former secretary, what do they call them? Secretary General? Yeah, right? Do you remember when she was asked about the number of Iraqi children who died because she said, well, it's a good price to pay, something like that, right? I mean, she was okay with that. Emotions are gone. Unfortunately for them is they can't even love their own. Right? So this is Khatam Allah. You can see this also with serial killers. Right? When they go to court, what do they want if they're caught? They want their story to be heard. They have no remorse for what they have done. I just make my story clear. Right? And you can see again, they will even have videos ready. Right? Now you have people who they've prepared online, then they go and kill. Their hearts are gone. So this is Khatam Allah. But point being that most human beings, Allah hasn't sealed their hearts. That is why they still want to do good. Even though they're not believers, they still want to do good. This is the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what frustrates shaitan. Now he's got the soul, right? 𝗟𝗲𝗴𝘂𝗹𝗿 𝗂𝗲. That's what he's doing. But then this person is still doing good. Right? He's ready to die for someone. Right? What was her name? Rachel, right? The one who died for the Palestinians, right? Right? There you go. Right? So, that's the job of the heart. It's the arbitrator. Okay? And I once gave a very clear example of, this is something that I watched myself, just to show you how the heart works. I saw a program on TV where there were young people who were really suffering from addiction to pornography. And this young man, he was a white young man, not a Muslim. I don't even know if he practiced any religion. And he came, he was in the program because he wanted help. He could no longer restrain himself from his desires, and they were really destroying his life. And so the journalist went out with him just to witness whether this was true. And the incident happened, and he had his shahwa, and then just fulfilled his shahwa in the wrong way. But the key thing was, when he did that, the journalist asked him, he said, how do you feel after doing that? And he said two words I'll never forget: worthless and horrible. Worthless and horrible. Now remember, he's an adult, right? He has a right to do what he wants to do, isn't it? I mean, by law and by the fact that he doesn't believe in the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so he feels it's his body, he can do what he wants. But when he did it, what happened? The only experience the heart gave him was horrible and worthless. He didn't feel great. Why? Look at the guidance of the heart. Because the nur of the heart has not yet been what? Completely blocked by the blackness of the soul, the nukta sauda. This black spot, what is it? It is darkness that starts interfering in the light that is supposed to be guiding the soul. And the more darkness there is, the more difficult now the heart has a problem with communicating with the soul. That's why you have to do your purification very fast. Right? You do your tawbah and it's removed. Because you need your heart to continue doing what? Guiding you. Okay? So we have looked at the wrong actions and going downwards. This is the downwards. Now we can look at going upwards, right? So you want to move from the amara to bisu. Now what happens? Let's say I'm doing something wrong, but I'm a believer. Right? Now I know it is wrong. So what happens? I have nafsul lawama. My soul goes into blameworthy state. Right? Because the heart is doing what? The heart tells the soul, that was wrong. That is not acceptable. And the soul goes into a state of lawama, blameworthy. And what does he want to do now? To correct that. Okay, to correct that. Okay, and then if it moves from lawama, it's now going upwards, right? To the mutma'ina, and some say you have the mulhama, it becomes inspired, and then radiyan, marwiya, no, mulhama, mutma'ina, radiyatan, marwiyatan, and then kamil. Kamil is the perfection, right? That's those who think of it like the 7 degrees. And then those who say it moves from the lawama to mutma'inna, to the tranquility. Okay, so this is a process that is going on. But then there is also the experience of that process, where you will know that the transformation is taking place. There will be changes that are manifest physically, experientially, which will tell you you are transforming. And that's the key thing. Okay, that's the key thing. That's how we will resolve the inner conflict, right? So the heart wants to go to qalbun salim. Okay, so when you are doing good, what happens? Now you're doing good. What will happen? When you do good, the heart knows it is good. So the heart turns towards the ruh, your spirit, and opens a window for the spirit to bring in the jaza. And that's why when you do good, what do you feel? Energized. You're being purified. This is the communication now between the heart and the ruh. And when that comes through, it starts purifying the soul. The soul is removed from that which is the impurities it accumulated. Okay? Now, what happens with these impurities that are accumulating the soul? Some of them are very clear for us, only we are not aware. I just want to point to one thing that I've said many times. Okay? Most human beings, I said before, are in what state? Most human beings don't realize that they're in a restless state. Really, right? We are told we are now living in the age of distraction. Right? We are constantly looking for distractions. Why is that so? Why are we looking to distract ourselves all the time? Why can't we not be paying attention? What is distraction? Right? And to me, it is a form of escapism. we are trying to run away from what? The present moment. Because why? Why do we want to run away from the present moment? Because the present moment doesn't seem to be fulfilling. It's not giving me satisfaction, contentment. I'm not flourishing in that present moment. And that's why I need a distraction. Have you realized that? That's what people are doing. They sit with their family members and they're trying to run away. So what do? They distract themselves. They sit alone, they distract themselves. This is what distraction is. Okay, so where is this taking place? Why is this happening? Why are we distracting ourselves? Now, you need to understand your body works with your soul. Okay? Whatever you are taking in through your senses will affect your nafs. And in turn, your nafs will affect your body. Okay, this is going on. So every time you bring in through your senses negative things, things which have negative energy, what will they do to your soul? They will create an imbalance and incoherence. So the vibration will now be what? Out of order. That's what will happen. And when that happens, you go into a restless state. Right? Because your soul is not functioning smoothly. I want to read something here, and this is empirical knowledge now, right? This is Egypt that they're finding this out, right? Subhanallah. So this is a lady, Dr. Beth McDougall, and she's saying our degree of health depends on the degree to which we resonate with the patterning of our pristine blueprint in the unified field, and thus our ability to extract energy and correct information. As we go through life, things happen to us. We may get exposed to toxins, we may develop infections or traumatic experiences. Since everything has a corresponding geometry that contains information, we start to accumulate misinformation. The chaotic energetic signatures of these misinformed patterns, they're out of harmony with the body and they create dissonance. Like static on the radio, when the body communicates back to the blueprint, and keep this word in mind, blueprint, the chaotic signatures of these things are also communicated back as distorting patterns that begin to disrupt the coherent translation of the blueprint in the feedback loop with the body. The misinformation decreases the fidelity of the pristine blueprint's coding. And then this leads to entropy, breakdown, and disease. This is empirical. SubhanAllah. That there is a blueprint which gets affected. And once it goes into that state, incoherence, it will send the same back to the body. And the body starts doing what? Breaking down, disease, right? Which is what? Disease, the lack of ease. What's the blueprint? The nafs. That's where this is contained. So you can look at the soul like where you have the software and the programs. And once those are having incoherence or infections, the wrong vibrations, then this is what happens to our nafs. This is the restlessness we go into, right? So it's like restlessness, right? Think of yourself trying to drink water. You have a glass of water and you're trying to drink it and you're spinning at, let's say, 200 rounds per minute or 300 rounds. That will be very frustrating, isn't it? Right? Very frustrating. That's what's happened to the soul when we are restless. Now we are very frustrated with everything in the present moment because we can't rest. We can't sit still. And you can see that in, even in our body postures. right? And people are not aware of this. They think this is normal, right? So you see some people sitting and, or their legs, right? Or they're standing and, we all think this is normal. It's not normal. Just sit still, right? And I gave example, you go to the bus stop and it's saying 10 minutes before your bus comes, 30 seconds later you're back looking at the board, right? It said 10 minutes, 1 minute later you're walking up and down. You're restless. You want to get away. You want to move away from this place. Can that bus get here faster? The train, right? And if suddenly the board says next one cancelled, now you're turning to the next guy. That's the problem. That's why they need to privatize, right? Now you have to, your complaints need to come out, right? Maybe you're waiting for, your wife or your husband and, she's going to be late for 10 minutes, right? Now you're looking for someone to complain to about that. Right? Restlessness. That's where we are. It's not just the body, it's the soul. We're trying to run away. You see, you go in a queue and there are 5 people in front of you. 30 seconds later, you're wondering why they're not moving. How long was that? And I'm telling you, observe for yourself. If I'm lying, just observe. Observe yourself and observe others. And then we all think it's normal. That's the way things are supposed to be. No, we have gone into abnormal states. And as long as we're in this state, we're not going to find any joy in anything. Wallahi, I used to go with my kids to the park when they were young. I still do, right? Alhamdulillah. And you see people come with their kids, right? And 10 minutes later, they want to get them back home. Kids want to be in the park and play. I remember one of my neighbors used to tell my son before my daughter was born, every time I would come out to him, say, "You have a good father." Because we would go and come back 2 hours later. Just let's go and you do whatever you want to do and sit on the soil and play with it. You have to go through that. That's what they want to do, right? But the more you're finding peace inside of you, the more easy it becomes. You understand that? The more you'll be at peace with that situation. So what we don't realize is the problem is not the kids, right? And we see that even in our own ummah, and I see it a lot in madrasa. In madrasa, right? Okay, look at the kids right now. Honestly, you can already see they're restless. Wallahi, look at our kids. They're already restless. Why is that so? Okay, we said every negative vibration will create that incoherence, imbalance, disharmony. Every negative. Now, with the youngsters, it's not so much the scenes, no. It's the screens. The vibrations of the screens, most of them are negative for the soul. Seriously. That's where they're getting the restlessness from. And you can see it in them. They're already having a problem with sitting still. Right? And then you have the process that they're going to go through with an education that just creates more disharmony, incoherence, and all of that, right? But this is not what's happening. Every time we have this negative vibration. And then you have us adults, which we even was, right? The other day, I was in the masjid for Friday prayer, and there was a big guy next to me, young, maybe late 20s, early 30s. Wallahi, for 30 or 40 minutes, he could not sit in any posture for 1 minute. And I was thinking, because I do ruqya, I was thinking, I hope he doesn't have my enemies next to me. Because he could not sit still. Wallahi, for 1 minute, he could not. He's a big guy, he's healthy. But for him, he thinks that's normal, isn't it? That's normal. That's what we're doing. We all think that's normal. That's not normal. That's an imbalance. Right? This is what has happened to us. So this is what is happening when we're bringing in negative to the nafs. Okay, it's going to function. Take your engine, right? The engine of the car, right? If it has impurities, what happens now? Less efficiency. right? That's what happens, less efficiency. So it has to be purified. وَيُزَكِّيكُمْ. It has to be purified. Now this is what's happened to us. That's why we are in that state. So what about when we are committing sins? Now there is more of that, right? So the soul will have these degrees of ascendancy, okay? What most of us are, we are in this, I would say the first two levels, because I look at it like 7 levels. And the first 2 levels for most human beings is the conflict vibration. That's where we are. We are constantly in this conflict vibration. We don't come out of it. The anxieties, the fears, the conflict with this one, conflict with that one, right? The vices, right? So you think again in terms of particles. So let's say this is your soul with like 10 trillion particles, right? So at this lower level, it is the vices which are more loud. That's why you're constantly fighting for the virtues, right? But those are the ones which are vibrating more. Now you need to move up to come out of that. And I've had one of our beautiful sheikhs, he said, you know, that he knows he has transformed because his wife told him, you have changed. Right? He's one of our beautiful sheikhs. He said that openly, you know, he said, you know, I know we transformed because for him, he said, you know, my wife told me you have changed. And we know before he used to be a bit volatile and, you know, and now, mashallah, he's very calm the way he deals with things, right? So it's a reality. There is a transformation that takes place. So whenever we are these lower vibrations, and the lower vibrations are due to what? The negativity. We have to reduce these negativities. Then we move to the higher vibrations. So the virtues have to increase. Okay, now, what will happen if we start moving up? Right? How will we know these changes are happening? One of them is immediately we start having what? More calmness. Right? So the monkey mind, that's what the Buddhists call it. The monkey mind. Why do they call it that? Monkeys are very restless. Really, you know, just go and observe them. It's like they have something, you know, against being still. So the Buddhists say we have the monkey mind, right? It's constantly. So we need to come out of the monkey mind. And we need to start coming down. That's how we are going to find the stillness and all that. So this is what will happen if we start moving out. But at the same time, what will be happening is we are going to have these changes, right? And I'm just going to mention them randomly, not in any order. So number 1, you'll start experiencing character change. Wallah, your character will start changing. Where is it heading towards? Good, beautiful. That's what will happen. Okay? Your speech changes. You will notice that, right? And, you know, I need to mention here, if you look at most human beings, really, and that includes us Muslims and myself and almost human beings, right? Our speech mostly is 3 things. Really, majority of our speech is 3 things. Number 1, we're always talking about the other. Really. You know, and I remember once I told a brother, because he used to watch, those were many years back when they had things like EastEnders and Coronation. I'd never watched any of those things. So one day I sat with him and watched. And then I realized, I said to him, you know, they really backbite a lot in this series, in these programs. And he told me, well, it's not only them. And the Muslim Ummah, we do the same. So we have the same disease, right? So, you know, your speech changes. Most of us, our speech, 3 things, right? I'm going to rush through that. I don't want to take too much of yourself's time. We're either talking about the other a lot, we complain a lot, right? And then we talk a lot about trivial things. Really, that's what we are doing a lot of our speech. But when you're having this transformation, your speech changes. Okay? And what's coming in? Wisdom. wisdom starts coming in, which will affect your speech, right? So your character will change. Your actions are going to change, right? Your knowledge increases, right? So you're going to have wisdom. Your knowledge will increase. Your practice of deen will keep changing. You're going to have, you'll find you're getting more and more inspired. This is the nafsul mulhama, right? So you're getting inspired to do more. Okay, your endurance, your ability to deal with things, both spiritually and the worldly things, becomes even more and easy. Okay, it becomes easy. And then, you know, you don't tire like the ordinary people anymore. And that's why you can see such people, they can do with less sleep and do more. Right? These are things that will keep happening. Okay. Now, what governs this process of the transformation, I forgot to mention. We said that it's about arriving at Nabat al-Hasana. The whole process is governed by ihsan. Ihsan is what is governing this change. Why? Allah is saying, الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. We're supposed to do what? Ihsan, right? And we know the role model is who? Uswatun Hasana is who? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And then we are told, وَلَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَاتِ وَلَا السَّيِّئَاتِ ادْفَعْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, right? Change things with that which is ihsan. And when we talk, وَكُلِّ عِبَادِي يَقُولُ الَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, right? Tell them to do that which is ahsan. كَتَبَ اللَّهُ الْإِحْسَانَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Allah's prescribed ihsan in everything. So when we're choosing ihsan, what happens? الْجَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانِ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ, right? That's what we are aiming for. Ihsan in everything. And when we do that, now we are having this ascendancy. This transformation starts taking place. And we will become that beautiful people. Okay? Now, another key thing to understand is these are states that you're going to go into, and they have their own energy. That is why one of the shuyukhs asked, one of the students asked one of the great walis, if somebody tried to show that they're in a certain state, you know, what do you say about that? And the shaykh said, we'll know him. Because you can't fake it. It is a fadla from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only Allah gives it to you. You are not going to fake it. When you do this, the jaza is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The transformation is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you're not going to fake it, but it takes place. Now, okay, as you are changing into these states, your energy is changing. And this is so important because eventually, what happens to your energy? You get to a point where your energy is now healing and purifying. And you want the proof for that? Haven't you sat with people and said, wow, I feel nice when I'm sitting with this guy? And you've sat with people, oh, I don't want to score that guy, man. I just feel like he's got negativity in them. Where is that coming from? The heart. The heart. The heart has its own field, energy field. And they now say they can measure it up to 15 feet away from the heart. They can measure your energy field. And when they were asked, why not more? They said, we don't have an equipment to measure more than that. It could be going far and far into the world. Right? And now we know that, you know, our hearts are connected to the universe. Right? If you look at the diagram, the torus field, right? And our heart is connected to the universe from that. That's the same thing you get around the sun. Right? So we know this. Okay? So we are beings that can change a lot of things. The purification can happen when we do that. There was something I quickly wanted to mention to show you how the heart arbitrates. So when the soul is doing wrong and how the heart is the arbitrator. And this is an empirical information that they found out. So they said, this is John and Beatrice Lacey from the 𝗕𝗲𝗁 Research Institute. So they found out that when the brain sent orders to the heart through the nervous system, the heart did not automatically obey. Instead, the heart responded as if it had its own distinctive logic. Sometimes when the brain sent an arousal signal to the body in response to the stimuli, the heartbeat sped up. But frequently, it also slowed down. The selectivity of the heart's response indicated that it wasn't merely mechanically responding to a signal from the brain. Rather, the heart's response appeared to depend on the nature of the particular task at hand. Okay? Now, even more shocking, they discovered that our heartbeats aren't just mechanical throbs of a diligent pump, but an intelligent language that significantly influences how we perceive and react to the world. Right? Even more intriguing, the Lacey's found that the heart appeared to be sending messages back to the brain that the brain not only understood but obeyed. The brain, the soul, nafs, right? So the nafs is doing that. Amara bisu, the heart is saying no. Okay? So this is the transformation process. Your heart, your nafs, and your qalb, they are on the movement to arrive at mutma'inna and to arrive at salim. And the ruh is there to do its job, right? The ruh is the vitality. Okay? And according to some, like Imam al-Ghazali has said this, you know, like they talk about the journey, and they said the journey is through the ruh. That is, everything is contained within the ruh. They also say that the lawh mahfud, right, where everything is preserved, the tablet, it is in your ruh. Meaning that, because the lawh mahfud, all your life has already been recorded, isn't it? And then it is kept in this data bank, lawh mahfud, which is contained within your ruh. So according to this, you are walking around with all your life already there. So you need to find out where you arrived at, get inspired. So because your heart knows where you arrived at, it will keep inspiring you. Mulhama. Because this is not where you stopped. So keep doing. Okay, now let me just finish very quickly with what is it that will prevent us from having this expansion. Okay? And this expansion is not easy. It takes some force, it's a whole life journey, right? Ihsan is not easy to do. But we have to strive towards that because 𝗕𝗲𝗿 𝗿𝗲𝗁 عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. That's what Allah expects. He's prescribed ihsan in everything. Okay? There are three things that will prevent us from ascending, from moving from these conflict vibrations. Okay? Three key things. The first one is lack of gratitude. Lack of gratitude. And wallahi, I do ruqya. I've had the jinns say very clearly, we get you because of your lack of gratitude. They have said this. We get you because of your lack of gratitude. Okay? Lack of gratitude, Allah says, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِدَنَّكُمْ. If you are grateful, we shall expand. It will be increased. So if we are not having expansion, then we are not having enough gratitude. So we have to be very careful. We need to And gratitude, we have to give gratitude at the level that we should give gratitude. If we think gratitude is only Alhamdulillah, we are going to fail. Okay? Gratitude is using every resource that Allah has given you to bring good through it. That's how we show gratitude. Every bounty that Allah has bestowed upon you, bring the best out of it. You will be showing gratitude. Inshallah. Right? The second one is, what do you call it? Bukhul. Right? Selfishness. Lack of empathy. Right? Lack of concern. What you'd call apathy. Being apathetic to things, to situations, to everything. And Allah says, وَمَنْ يَبْخَلْ فَإِنَّمَا يَبْخَلُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ. عَلَى نَفْسِهِ. Right? This being a miser, this not wanting to be out there and give, right? What does it do? It's a constriction to your own soul. Allah didn't say you're denying others. He said, يَبْخَلْ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ. So if you think you shouldn't show concern, empathy for others, for the world, for the situations that is going on, and think, what can I do? You are only constricting yourself. And when you're constricted, you don't do what? You don't come out of your conflict vibrations. Your restlessness, those states will remain with you. So that's the second one. The third one is lack of shame. Lack of shame. Shame, and what's the beginning of shame? Having shame in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are failing what He expects of us. Okay? Because if you show shame, if you realize that shame on me, I should be doing better with my time, with my life, with my family and all of that. Why? Because this is what Allah expects. When you do that, now you're going to be what? Inspired. Because you're doing what? You're aspiring to change that which is wrong. You're aspiring. So Allah will inspire you. And the inspirations will come in many ways. Okay? So these three things, this will be the impediments. Right? So to sum it up, there is a transformation. There is a movement of the soul to higher states. We need to move to those states. And when we are in those states, we are going to be peaceful, beautiful, noble human beings, full of purity, inshallah. And may Allah give us the tawfiq to do that. Barakallahu fikum, jazakumullah khair. Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي وانزله مكانه المقرب عندك يوم القيامة. اللهم اجعل صلواتك ورحمتك وبركاتك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما جعلت على سيدنا إبراهيم. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك والنار. اللهم أقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تهول به بيننا وبين معصيتك ومن طاعتك ما تبلغنا به جناتك ومن اليقين ما تهون به علينا مصائب الدنيا ومتعنا اللهم بأسمائنا وأبصارنا وقوتنا أبدا ما أحييتنا واجعله الوارث منا واجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا وانصرنا على من عادانا ولا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا ولا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا ولا تسلط علينا بذنوبنا من لا يخافك ولا يرحمنا برحمتك يا يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وارحم جميع المسلمين والمسلمات في كل مكان برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلي على حبيبنا وسيدنا ونبينا محمد المصطفى وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين. الحمد لله.